as excited. After I'd already scraped off this gasket over here, maybe a little hard to see, but you know, scraped it off with a razor scraper, degreased the side, the top, all the little nooks and crannies right here, this is what took most of the time here. I had to kind of put the degreaser on there, let it sit, put it on, let it sit, take it off. So, on this side over here, you guys can see, hopefully, right here, got most of it off. It looks like gunk right here, but that's like part of the paint that stayed on there. There's obviously a little bit of oil that kind of excess that dripped off. I'm going to get that off of there because I'm getting ready to paint this thing. So I mean, I kind of like the color it is right now. I have to get it all nice and shiny looking, and it almost looks good enough as is, but I'm going to paint it black just because that's what I want to do. But I'll give you a shot of it whenever it gets done. We finally got this engine masked off. This is a painstaking process of cutting all these little fine edges right here. I know it's a little jagged. I'm gonna make sure that's over a little bit to get to paint only what you want to paint and nothing that you don't want to paint. Obviously, I'm not going to paint these coolant freeze plugs. I'm going to cap those off just because it's so difficult to get an exact measurement piece of tape. I have a socket that fits exactly right on here as it needs to. So I'm going to hold the socket on there and then spray paint, and then I'm going to move to the next one and spray paint up, making sure that I'm not overspraying on the other one. Now, I don't suggest that this is the way to do it. You want to mask these off somehow, not getting the seal or getting right here where the freeze plug meets the block. But that's the way I'm going to do it because that's what I have on me right now. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint this side. Spent about an hour or so taping up all this stuff, masking everything off. Okay, you guys can see this in here, but I will have a socket covering this up. Just took the old oil filter off of there. This engine had about 230,000 miles. I'm pretty sure that oil filter had about 170,000 of those miles on it. It's crazy. This engine oil didn't really get changed that often from what I understand. Now, you might be able to see some of this masking kind of popping up here and there. And I was going to take some bolts and run them in here just for good measure to make sure this stayed down. But I'm just, as I go along, I'm going to push it down and you know, make sure it doesn't get on there where, I mean, there's not going to be a head gasket right here, so there's not going to be a head gasket right there, so head gasket will be going on here and over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and send it. I'm going to go ahead and paint this other side, start doing the second coat, because the other side's still masked off. The other side turned out pretty well. Didn't get any overspray on stuff I probably shouldn't. It's looking good so far. Any kind of extra overspray or paint that I get on something else, I got me a razor scraping tool. I'm going to scrape any excess off where, you know, if I get it where, you know, I don't want it to be. I did mask off the crankcase in case you guys were wondering. I did put some oil pan bolts in there just in case while I'm spray painting, you know, it doesn't spray down and then get up in the crankcase, because that's no bueno. So you want to make sure that that's masked off as well. Aside from the obvious, you know, making sure that there's not going to be any paint getting where you're going to be putting your head gasket. So I got that masked off pretty well. We're going to get going on this one. See how I do this. It's just spray paint though, not rocket surgery. So you guys can probably see that where each one of these that I'm putting on, each one of these valve oil seals that I'm putting on, that I'm putting this blue liquid just on the bottom of it. This is the Permalock. It's medium strength. It's not really high strength. It's not super glue or anything like that. I just wanted to put something in there that will help keep the valve seal, oil seal, in place, but won't make it impossible for when me or somebody goes to, you know, take this engine apart again. Hopefully that's not the case, but not only that, I didn't want something that was going to swell up too much. That's why I didn't go with the high strength, because as you noticed, as I was going through, I was also taking, I was twisting a piece of paper towel and put them inside the valve guide. That's because I was cleaning up any excess Permalock that was squished into the valve guide as I was putting the oil seal on. Now I'm also, you'll see also, I'm going to run the valve stem itself through the valve guide with some engine oil to push out any excess Permalock that I might still have in there. And then I'm gonna kind of do that process and then wipe off the valve guide until I push it in there and I don't see anything resembling Permalock in there, because as Permalock dries it will swell a little bit. What I don't want, and some of you guys who are mechanically inclined can see where I'm going with this, what I don't want is for it to swell up after I assemble the heads, and then the engine goes to run or crank, and there's going to be resistance, and it's going to cause premature failure of those valve stems because you're going to have that extra tension from the Permalock. You may not think it's that much, but you don't want something as simple as Permalock to be preventing your valves from opening and shutting. There's 100 different ways that a valve can get stuck, or that an engine can be impeded. So I'm going to try not to be the cause of that. So that's why I'm just taking a little bit of extra precaution with that. Some of you guys may scoff at the fact that I'm using any Permalock on there, or that I'm using the wrong stuff. If you guys got a different process you found that works better, or a different product or substance that is better for these, to make sure that these oil seals stay in place during operation, drop it down in the comments section. I'm open to any of the suggestions, but this is what, like I said before, this is what I'm going with right now. So I'm going to go through moving the valve seals. We're getting to the point where we're going to start assembling pistons, and dial bore gauging the cylinders, filing the piston rings, measuring the piston rings gap to make sure that it has proper gap. We're going to be doing all that stuff. This is just a tool that I cut with my Dremel. As you can see, it's just a piece of pipe. This is not the proper tool to be doing this. Just because I got it because it just sits perfectly on there. But the thing what I have to do when you don't have the proper tool is what I'm doing. I don't suggest you do the same. Is I have to make sure that I do this very slowly and make sure this doesn't slip off there, because as I'm pressing down, I'm compressing that spring. If you understand how springs work, spring goes down, it gets tighter. If that thing starts to slide, if it starts to slide off the least bit, it goes and shoot out. Obviously, I'm going to be wearing my eye protection during that piece, but I suggest you get the right tool. For me, I'm just being very careful. I was able to take out all the valve springs with this right here, but that's what I'm using. Okay, it's just a thing to compress it and to be able to get my magnetic retrieval tool and push those retainers back in there. Working with a V6, it's got 12 valve springs. got all these retainers here. So I have 24 retainers. And these little tiny guys, they're a little tiny. And they seat where you see the grooves on the valve stem. They seat just so one goes on this side and then one sits on the other side. And that's why I cut this notch to pull those out when I was disassembling. Now with that same magnetic retriever tool, hopefully I can do this with the aid of that and a couple little fine point pokers to poke them back in. Once I have the valve spring compressed enough with this, I can then push the retainers in with the magnetic retrieval tool and then use another tool to kind of adjust and get it seated properly. But we'll see how that works out. Like I said, I just made the tool on the fly because I didn't have one. And when you're putting these retainers in, it's important to note that the small side, I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, it looks kind of like sort of a cone shape, a half cone shape. The small or the narrow end is going to be facing down. So that way, when these two retainers or keepers, however people refer to them as, once they're on the valve stem, so it would sit on there just like that. And once these two retainers are on the valve stem, they will lock the valve stem to the spring. So that way the spring can be compressing the valve stem up, and the only thing that's going to push it down is the push rods during engine operation. All right, so I have the retainers that they are seated inside the grooves. They are on the grooves inside of the spring. I have the spring under stress using the C-clamp. Again, this is my tool that I made. I suggest you get the right tool to do it. Since I got the retainers in there now, all I'm going to do is just release the pressure of the C-clamp, and the retainers should do basically what's in their name and retain the spring at a certain height, and then basically the valve will work tandem with the spring. The retainers are now holding the spring down and got that valve latched into place, and it's resting on the valve seat right now. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do all the rest of these on this head and on the other head. Guys, heads are assembled with the valves, stems, and valve springs, retainers. All right, you can see the new oil seals in there we just put in. All of them back in. You're just gonna sit right here in this bucket right here just so I can keep stuff off of them as I'm moving stuff around, because I am going to be working on this block that I just painted. Still got a little bit more to do. I'm just getting the main bits of it, and we'll see kind of what it looks like when I get that completed. I'm gonna be working on the camshaft, cleaning that one up, and then also getting the pistons and everything with the wrist pins installed in here, because I picked up I didn't get a drill. I know people are saying I probably need a shop press, but I got a vise. I'm going to see if I can get that to work, and also got a grinder, which is kind of a little, I guess you'd call it life hack. Guy on YouTube was putting an LS engine together, said go down to Harbor Freight and use a 20% discount coupon that they have in their little flyer, and I picked this guy up. It's a circular saw blade sharpener, as you guys can see right there, but it comes with a diamond plate grinder with it, so you can use that, from what I'm told by that YouTube video, and some other sources were saying that they could use that, because these right here with the coupon, he picked it up for $43. I picked it up for the same $43. with the coupon. Instead of paying, was it like 50 bucks for that little tiny hand sharpener, which people haven't had good luck with that, because people haven't had good luck with the little small hand sharpener that's like 50 bucks, because the speeds are irregular with your hand motion, and having an electric one that has a steady speed is the best. Once I get that set up in the vise and everything, I can show you more on how you want to file your rings and then deburr after, before you put them into your piston. We're also gonna attach these to the other connecting rods. I'm gonna keep the cylinder still the same. I wrote all the cylinders on the tips of on the heads of the other pistons, the old ones. So I'm gonna keep those connecting rods with that same cylinder, with cylinder 1 with piston 1 and so on. So I'll get that stuff set up and then we'll look at it then.